Welcome to Around the Blockchain. Today we're going to be talking about BlackRock's take on crypto. What does Larry Fink think about FTX? Also, the next generation of Web3 and the road to irrelevance. Is Bitcoin on the road to irrelevance? I don't know. You're probably not watching this if you do think that. All right, it's going to be a fantastic show. We're going to go ahead and get right into it. For the first time, we have Corey Casta. Make sure you follow him at Corey Casta 123. Always putting out great content. Ben said something about your interview skills. What did he say, Corey?
He said to me it was one of the best interviews he's ever had. He said to me that basically I asked him a question about Abraham Lincoln, and he said, in association to Abraham Lincoln talking about the implosion of American ideology and and associating that with the implosion of cryptocurrencies ideology. And he said that was the best question he's basically been ever asked in an interview.
All right, well, we're going to have to switch spots one day where we get you back on. Maybe we could trade. All right, on the bottom right, we have Crypto Lifer. Just got featured in, I believe that's Crypto Magazine over there. Yeah, he's got like a 2-page spread. You can see Kevin Hart on the cover. So congrats, Crypto Lifer.
Thanks, man. You're the man.
Well deserved, man. Well deserved. I think we all agree. On the bottom left, we have RiceTVx. Make sure he has some of the hottest, most exclusive interviews on his channel. He interviews the people those are afraid to ask the questions to. So if you really want some of those hot takes, make sure you check him out. And on the top left, head of BitLab Academy, it is Kelly Kellam. He is always toiling away in the basement. He's like a dwarf from Middle Earth. You just always see him. I don't know if he's looking for mithril or he's trying to help educate in the blockchain. All I know, he's hard at work. But let's get right into it. We're going to be talking about BlackRock, and I want to give a little bit of a background. What is BlackRock? We have I just Googled BlackRock's AUM, assets under management, $10 trillion. And what does that mean?
I don't think that's correct, though. I don't think that's correct.
Would you say higher or lower?
A lot higher, at least double that.
Yeah.
Hey,
all right.
Yeah. Can't believe 20 trillion.
Just a little background here. Founded only
trillion.
in 1988, initially as risk management and fixed income asset manager. Now it is the world's largest asset manager with, some would say, at least 10 trillion in assets, possibly even double that. Of course, this is from Wikipedia. So yeah, the 20 is seems very, very likely. The CEO, Larry Fink, has been there since the beginning. You can see it right here, since 1988. He is BlackRock. They had some pretty big, statements regarding FTX and crypto in general. He again clarified what is the BlackRock's exposure to FTX. It's just $24 million. And it's honestly hard to wrap your head around the scale of millions to billions and billions to trillions. But let's just suffice to say that $24 million is not going to do much to their bottom line there. But he said they are bullish on blockchain technology. He didn't really single out any particular coins, but he did single out tokenization of securities, stocks, bonds, real estate, possibly even land, wine, and art could be tokenized. Now, let's get right into the weeds of the conspiracies here. Rice, what does this tell you about the road to regulatory approval? Now that Larry Fink is saying he wants to tokenize certain securities, what does that mean for, the next 5 years when it comes to some of these backdoor meetings on what's really going to happen with our legislation?
Well, again, thanks again for having me back on Around the Blockchain. What I see is regulation, unfortunately, is going to come. It just is going to take positive people out there trying to push better legislation for we the people that's going to end up being good for the cryptocurrency markets, not stifle the markets, and be good for our nation as a whole. Now, with that being said, as I mentioned, BlackRock is they're in an interesting position. I believe that they're in charge of somewhere around 22 trillion. It's more than the GDP of the United States. It's more than a GDP of the entire EU. They're basically directing the Federal Reserve, running most of Wall Street, most of the United States banks, and now they've gotten access to sentiment. BlackRock's big arm is the Aladdin bot, but it's more than a bot. That is between Larry Fink and Aladdin. That is BlackRock. Now, the interesting thing, I just put out an interview today with Reggie Middleton. Reggie Middleton has a DeFi patent that was awarded to him in Japan and the United States. He is suing Coinbase, well, not he himself. Veritasium Capital Incorporated, or LLC, is suing Coinbase for patent infringement, excuse me. Now, with that being said, one of the things that he came up with was peer-to-peer capital markets. So the BlackRock is now getting into the tokenization of securities and commodities and such goes right underneath of Reggie Middleton's patent. So I really encourage people to go to my channel, check out the interview released today with Reggie Middleton about the Coinbase lawsuit. Also, Coinbase has been downgraded by Moody's. And there's an interview that I did with him the beginning of this year where we specifically go over all of the patent information. This is a big deal that the crypto media is not really sharing. But obviously, we see the tokenization of everything coming in the future. I mean, that's without a doubt. So it's not as if Larry, the Finkster, is trying to actually come up with an original thought here.
All right. Well, speaking of tokenization, Kelly, I know you're always like looking at some of this on-chain analytics. Before the show, I saw you looking up at those weird heat map signature looking charts. But I want to ask about the ledger status. Let's say they do get approval to tokenize, whether it's real estate, whether it's stocks, whether it's foreign exchange currencies. Do you think this would be an open ledger where people like you could do some sleuthing, find out what's being traded here? Or do you think this would be closed book trading where we would really not know what's happening behind the doors?
Well, I mean, to be perfectly honest, that's a great question, I think. And thank you for having me back. Always love being here with everybody. DZ, you're always such a good host. I think, tying this back in also with Larry Fink and BlackRock, if they're speaking positively about these things and they have, 10 to 20 trillion dollars or more than any country on earth, then Larry Fink, I would consider the leader of the world because the capitalistic nature that this world is run on, unfortunately. However, and along with that, they're not going to make comments on stuff unless they're already in position. That doesn't mean that they have certain things tokenized. I think what they really have in position, especially with Digital Currency Group and other things that they're a part of, the list of things they're a part of is too long to fit in all the books that are here. That's why they are worth over 10 to 20 trillion dollars. I think that they are really tied in with a lot of the framework to capitalize on the world when it does become tokenized. So them speaking on it now is starting to send that cart forward. Now, to your question, though, I think it goes into the fact that we are the world does operate in some places, whether or not it's spoken specifically or not. We operate as a free market. The things that get pushed and the things that get bought are the things that continue to grow. And I think there's going to be a lot of open ledger stuff, of course, but I think there's always going to be a market for closed ledger and also privacy. So I think there's going to be a good mix of that, with the majority of it being public open ledger.
All right. Good take there. All right. Now, Corey, he also had a quote on whether or not why FTX, why did they fail? This is what he said. You're going to get a kick out of this one. Commenting on the scandal, he said their fatal flaw was creating their own token. Now, so he seems to believe that it wasn't using customer funds. It wasn't fraud that led to their collapse, but it was the fact that they had the FTT token. Do you agree with that? What are your thoughts on, why FTX collapsed, especially given what Larry Fink is saying here?
I think FTX collapsed specifically because of the point that there was mismanagement behind the scenes. And when you create a coin that amalgamates mismanagement with the inability to be to be decentralized, which is basically the principles of blockchain and cryptocurrency. And we've seen the principles of blockchain and cryptocurrency become nothing more than anachronisms over the last 3 years. I feel as if creating this coin and creating this centralized paradigm, I feel like we're going into this oligopoly era of cryptocurrency in regards to centralized exchanges. I feel as if creating that coin was one of the main reasons why FTX collapsed, but also due to the nefarious activity, in my opinion, of SBF and those who were working behind the scenes. And now we're looking at, unfortunately, people giving people in the mainstream media are being apologetic towards SBF because of this collapse. And I think that as a result of FTT, I think as a result of public trust in centralized exchanges rather than the ethos of what decentralization means, I think as a result of that, we saw this collapse. And I think that now we are going into the oligopoly compliance era of cryptocurrency. And the results of that are yet to be seen, I feel, and I think that's kind of frightening as a result.
Yeah, it gets a little complicated when you say, when you try to decipher what is that actual first step. Is it the creation of the token? Is it what the collateralized loans that the token enabled? Is it the default? Is it so it gets
Is it
really
the
hairy.
misusing of funds? Is it this? Is it
Is
that? Is he a fraud?
them
Is he a
spending your
scammer?
Bitcoin?
Exactly.
Maybe that sounds wrong to me. I don't know. Call me crazy. All right, Lifer. I know you're a chart guy, and one of the things you do specialize in is these volume nodes. I want to talk about this tokenization because let's assume they do tokenize stock market. Let's assume they do get in on crypto. I must assume that a lot of this is probably going to be OTC. We're not going to see a lot of this on chain. Do you think BlackRock would look at volume, where volume is concentrated? Do you think their algorithms, their quants, do they care about this data, or are they the ones that the volume nodes should be paying attention to?
Thank you so much for having me on. By the way, appreciate it here in beautiful Miami. Love ATV, love the show. Just so people know too, an oligarchy, when basically things get so bubbled up that the top owns everything, right? And the people really have no say. That's the common what it boils down to. But the idea here is this. I remember when I first went to my Bitcoin summit in New York City about 3 years ago, and I was meeting a guy that had worked for Goldman Sachs, and he's like, but we need access to dark pools, and we can't get institutions in until we have dark pools. And I didn't even know what a dark pool was at the point, right? And what you find out is they are deep liquidity pools that the public can't see, right? They're accessing giant spots of liquidity. However, once they get into the market, I think they're going to make enough investments in other sub companies that it's like they may be the soil underneath, but enough things are going to sprout, and I believe that money will flow into crypto, right? And you're going to see volume in different types of projects and VCs. What I don't want to see, like we saw in the last bull run, is so many of those giant pump and dumps by venture capitalists that had access to the liquidity before everybody else. The second it would hit PancakeSwap or something like that, they would 10 to 20x dump on people immediately. The only people that really benefited in retail were the whitelist people that got in at the very beginning, and they had a dump with the VCs too, and it looked like a few little guys got to win, but they really didn't, right? So I get scared whenever I see big institutions coming, but at the same time, they've been running my life behind the scenes anyway, right? I can't say I'm not in their little box, right? They have it all. Like Kellam said, they run the world at this point. Show me who runs the money. I care not who makes the guns, right? They say give me the banking system and I can put you right back into slavery again, over and over again. You can watch the movie Money Masters. We left the banking system. Garfield tried to get us off of it. Abraham Lincoln tried to get us off of it. It goes deep if you want to find out more about Alexander Hamilton. But, we're still fighting for our freedom to this day. I'm wondering when we're all going to truly be free.
Hamilton, just to tie it back to Crypto Lifer, it's not just a musical with rapping, which is why Lifer likes it. No, there's a lot of things that man stood for. It's worth looking into. Although I do recommend you check out Crypto Lifer's rap. RiceTVx. I want to ask one more question on this topic. What do you think BlackRock would do with Bitcoin that they hold? Are they going to self-custody with a trackable wallet so their big-time investors maybe feel a little bit better? Are they going to obfuscate everything?
They may potentially for their own clients, but I don't think it's going to be public information. It's just going to be readily available to everyone because they're dealing with some high-end clients, and those clients they've been dealing with for quite some time. And unfortunately, as much as I don't like saying it, those entities definitely trust BlackRock. BlackRock has proven itself throughout time. Actually, it was BlackRock that pretty much got the United States out of the 2008 situation that we had in addition to all the QE. The other thing that I wanted to add though, real quick, and I'm glad that you brought me back for a question, is that if BlackRock thinks that they or any other entity is going to tokenize securities and commodities and do what essentially infringes upon Reggie Middleton's patent, I'm interested to see how this thing plays out.
Okay, yeah. We'll be keeping an eye on that, and thank you for sharing some of the information about that patent. It's pretty fascinating. All right, well, let's move on and talk about the ECB, talking about this next generation, and it's all a scam. This whole Bitcoin thing is a scam. It's a European central bank, and they are rejecting, surprise, surprise, Bitcoin because it's inappropriate as a payment mechanism and as an investment vehicle. It was the 21 peak artificially induced last gasp before the road to irrelevance. Corey, I just want you to unpack those comments. What do you feel about the ECB's comments there?
Well, over the course of Bitcoin's history, Bitcoin has died over 460 times. So I think this is a bit preposterous and ridiculous. Renowned economist of the latter half of the 20th century, Milton Friedman, he basically said that the internet's coming in three waves. He said, and by the way, I wanted to say thank you very much for letting me come on the show again. That was very kind of you. He said that the third wave of the internet is going to be a reliable e-cash. When you have the harbinger of a decentralized economy where there is no middlemen, where you have freedom of transactions, where you have freedom of movement without the need of a centralized entity, you're going to see backlash from centralized banking entities that are fearful of what could result in a loss of autocracy, a loss of power, a loss of economic influence over the common man and woman as a result of the power and the autonomy that Bitcoin and cryptocurrency bring and the ethos thereof. That's why I think right now what we're seeing is that regulatory compliance, the EU, and despotic nations and despotic draconian institutions are trying their best to part of the mechanics of oppressing an ideology or a population is to pervert it to the extent that it becomes the instrument of its own oppression. And what they're doing here is they're basically trying to destroy the principles of DeFi and cryptocurrency by amalgamating it with extreme compliance. And I think that that's their pivot here, because they know that they can't destroy cryptocurrency, but if they can destroy the ideology thereof that makes it stand strong against the state, against nations, against despotic leaders, then you have the result thereof of an ecosystem that can be weaponized for the state rather than against it.
All right, great stuff there. I felt it was like sage-like wisdom, almost like some Buddhist nuggets there.
Yeah,
all
really
right.
good wordplay there.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I love that. All right, Kelly, I have another fire quote from the ECB here. Bitcoin's conceptual design and technological shortcomings make transactions cumbersome, slow, and expensive. Kelly, pretend you're Jack Mahler. Do this real quick. What do you say to that?
There must be a glitch in the system if the US government or any government in the world thinks that there's some sort of issue with the way that Bitcoin specifically processes transactions, secures its networks, and also delivers value in literally an instant. Do the block times take a little, up to 10 minutes to process sometimes? Sure, but I'd rather that 10-minute processing time rather than having this $20 bill, which 60 years ago I could have bought a car with, and now I can barely buy a cheeseburger. Okay, how good is this fiat system that, it's such a great system, and it takes 5 to 7 days to transfer the digital version of this, when we know, here's the kicker, when we know that money actually does transfer in an instant, because we live in a digital world. I download stuff on the internet. I watch TV shows. It's instantaneous how fast the speed the internet is now. The reason that they delay those transactions is so they can hold on to your money and make money on the back of you until you get the money actually distributed into your account. So what system is broken? What system is cumbersome? The fiat system around the world is broken. The Bitcoin system, the Bitcoin ecosystem, and the crypto that's trying to follow in the same footsteps of Bitcoin doesn't even capture how good and how perfect the Bitcoin system is. That's my
all right, Kelly, one sentence. Thoughts on Lightning. Thoughts on Lightning Network. Necessary, not needed.
No, I mean, I think it's absolutely necessary. The caveat with that is, or the question when we think about Bitcoin and Lightning, Bitcoin realistically is an excellent store of value, and you can also transact and share. If we do want to get it to the point where we're doing stuff that's near instantaneous, which is literally with Lightning faster than the processing of Visa or credit cards, if we want to use it for transactability, we absolutely need Lightning. The caveat to that, though, or the trouble when thinking about that is, especially me, being here in BitLab Academy, teaching people the strength of holding, how powerful it is to hold. Even though you're holding, at some point, sometimes you may want to take profits off the top or spend, and that definitely there's use case there to be able to use it like an actual currency with instantaneous transaction. What am I looking for? When something
TPS.
Processes finalization, the finalization of a process. So we need that, but I think Lightning Network, in all honesty, is is decades ahead of the true use case of it, because
I would agree.
we're not really going to be transacting this like, you buy a cheeseburger, use Bitcoin, because we saw what happened with the Bitcoin pizza, right? So, but having these things starting to grow and proof of concept and sort out the issues that we have now is going to mean it's going to lead to a much better use case and process.
I will agree with that. I agree with that, with one asterisk. We won't use it in America for a long time. There's other countries they will use it soon. Go ahead.
Let me add this real quick, though. I mean, if we were to go back and look at the original argument of why Bitcoin Cash split from Bitcoin, we could increase the block size itself versus using a centralized entity that's probably going to require money transmittal licenses in the future.
All right. If you like BCH, hit that like button, by the way. Lifer, do you trade BCH? I'm going to ask you a real question, but do you trade BCH?
This isn't about BCH. It's about the block size. It's been a big debate in the blockchain space, in Bitcoin specifically. It's been a big deal. That's why we've seen so many different forks of Bitcoin take place.
Yeah.
And
Rice, I love you. Is there anything
that
he doesn't know, man? Like, he breaks down like details of Larry, like you, if I was on a desert island, I'm taking.
Yeah, he's throwing out patent numbers. It's hard to.
He's gonna tell me what's underneath the ground and like where we can live.
It's research.
But Lifer, I'll ask you two questions. One, joking.
Can I tell my life story of Bitcoin Cash, or like not life?
Actually, yeah, so I am pretty interested.
I'm in Bitcoin, and it's 2017, and this thing called SegWit 2x is coming out, and everyone's like, which one is going to be the real Bitcoin? Yeah, and I'm freaking out, and I would go to fork.something website and it would show me how much miners were, and I could tell who was mining what, and it would flip every night, and the miners would switch back to Bitcoin Cash, and you have to start trading that one, and then Bitcoin would tank, and then everyone was like, which one was going to tank? And I'm in Bitcoin Cash at 600. It flies to 2,700. Bitcoin's at like 36, 38. It looks like one's going to win. I keep freaking out. I don't know what, I'm trying to pick the right one. I don't know if I'm going to pick the right one. I'm like, and I'm in between. I eventually decide, like, it's got to be Bitcoin. The SegWit is trash. And like, thank God. Like, but I mean, going through that, like, if anyone ever went through that with me, like, that was insane. I remember getting my free Bitcoin Gold. So I've had my bouts with Bitcoin Cash ever since I made that trade from 600 to about around, I didn't sell the top of 2,700, but I bailed out at 22, 23. I kind of never touched it again. It was a big trade. I put like, a good amount of money into it at $600. It was like one of the bigger trades that got me into crypto, actually. So I have this love for it. I love the clip when I don't know the guy, but he's telling Roger Ver that him and his sock puppets like Bitcoin, and he's calling it Bcash, and Roger Ver just keeps wilding out.
Throws out
like,
the finger.
You call it Bcash one more time, and I'm out of this.
I think I like trading it in 18 because it was a little more volatile. Lifer,
it was fun. It used to follow Bitcoin way better, and it used to track. Now it's just trash, and it doesn't have the correlation.
And Bitcoin is like a good leading indicator for a period. I do have another question though. When it comes to coordination here, I'm interested in your thoughts, and I'll probably ask the rest of the guests this as well. I think it's all clear to us, especially if you're watching this, that there was a clear coordination to prop up FTX. Is just not that bad of a guy. Do you think that there's anything behind this ECB's comments? Because their language is very peculiar. There seems to be many adjectives for what you consider a dry entity like a central bank. It's almost like they're trying to paint a novel here. So do you think that there's any kind of media coordination going on here? Is this just their PR agent just really doesn't like crypto?
Well, there's the simple story, and then there's the deep story, right? Whenever I talk to my dad and I get deep and I tell him all this stuff, he looks at me and goes, the peasants have been the peasants and the kings have been the kings. Once you get it through your head, son, it hasn't changed. So like, it's the people at the top are connected, and we know that they run the news, and we know they run the law firms, and we know who's who, and we know at the one point their interests are somewhat, maybe there's something that guy's connected to. Another thing I'm thinking about are the people in the Bahamas. There's rich people there that have done their own thing. They don't want people looking into them, and so they're kind of like, get this guy out of here. In a way, we hope some of those people want so much of their privacy for whatever they've been doing. They're just like, we don't want to be looked at. So can we get this guy out of here? There could be, we want the elites to fight this out. Yeah. Honestly, and, that's the only way we're going to see this happen. Also, I'm starting a blockchain party at one point, and dude, Corey Casta, right? Dude, I want you on my cabinet, man. I want you speaking. I want you with the gavel. I want you to be the speaker.
He's writing everybody's speech. He's doing all the things.
You're
here.
Honor. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Now, Rice, I kind of want to ask you the same thing. Do you think there's a little bit of a coordinated effort with the ECB's press release and just how they're kind of characterizing Bitcoin? And if yes, who do you think might be behind that?
Yes, Christine Lagarde.
Woo!
She is the president of the ECB.
Yep.
She was with the IMF as well, and she has come out as not being a fan of decentralization. You can look at past reports that she's done as when she worked with the IMF, and you can look at things that she said with the ECB. The problem is that Bitcoin and decentralized cryptocurrencies in particular are a threat to central banks, are a threat to the legacy system, and are a threat to fiat currencies. And even Hillary Clinton came out and said that. There's been so many politicians that have come out talking about Bitcoin being a threat to sovereign nations. And it's because of this debt-based system that's created that we're forced to be slaves and participate in.
All right. I think that was a Lifer said it best. Rice comes with the receipts, immediately name drops, immediately says their position. I think he's even going to share their email.
He's got a photographic
in the chat.
memory, man.
I think he has
That's an
their
encyclopedia. Like, it's
Rice,
insane.
don't share her address. All right. Corey, kind of switching gears. I think Rice did a pretty good job there. They have some other things that they want to do when it comes to regulation. They might take a playbook from the CFTC. They're proposing a 2-tier regulatory system, one for perhaps accredited investors, maybe state actors, and then another one for retail. Do you think that's a good strategy? Because it's what we see in the traditional finance world. To get in on an IPO, for instance, you have to be an accredited investor. Is that a good model, and should we replicate that, or do you feel otherwise?
Yeah, it's great for the traditional model, because exactly what Crypto Lifer said brilliantly is that what it does is it allows for the hierarchical system of humanity from an economic standpoint. If you look at it from a feudal standpoint, you have the lords at the top that are, as George Collins said, that you're part of a club, they're in a club and you aren't in it. And then you have the individuals at the bottom. You have the fiefs, the serfs, the plebeians, the indentured servants, who aren't allowed to basically participate in the financial assets and the financial tools that actually will allow them to have a sense of upward mobility. So as a result of this, I think what they're doing is I think they know exactly what they're doing. They're doing this on purpose. What they're doing is they're creating a system where cryptocurrency is no longer for the common man or woman. It's not for the retail investor anymore. It's for it's creating a platform where decentralization is no longer the calling card of blockchain, and that the economic standpoint of cryptocurrency and of Bitcoin is to allow for a further gap between the the oligopolists and the vanishing middle class. And you see that now in blockchain, in blockchain and cryptocurrency, with regulatory compliance coming in. You're starting to see that individuals, like you said before, in regards to the media propping up SBF, where SBF is in this exclusive club, whereas the individual who created open source Tornado Cash basically goes to jail. I find this to be an unprecedented lack of justice towards the common man. And to relate that back to the economic system that you're conveying, this tier 2 system, is they're purposely trying to disconnect the retail investor from the institutional investor, because they do not want the retail investor to have the power, the authority, or the vertical mobility that accredited investors and institutional investors have. When you have power, you want to cling to that power and you don't want to give it away. This is the story of power for time immemorial, since the dawn of human civilization. It's the story of human hierarchy. So I see that this tier system is basically is antithetical to blockchain. I think it basically is amalgamating blockchain and cryptocurrency with traditional finance, and that's exactly what we are trying to fight against, or so it seemed.
All right, great point. So many Corey +1s in the chat. If you like what they're saying, always put a +1. Even got 2 thumbs up and a beer from Baki L.
Thank you.
You must have wrote that down. It sounded so good. All right, Kelly, let's play out this scenario. The central bankers win. The accredited investors win. The elites win, and they have a 2-tier system. What does the crypto landscape look like? What does Bitcoin look like? What does the whole DeFi system look like? What is this world that they're trying to create?
Well, first off, I would have a flood of water below my feet, and I would be highly dehydrated from the amount of tears I would cry that this entire revolution of changing the opportunity that's present in the crypto ecosystem, Bitcoin, the top 10 primarily, that's offered to us. Like, I mean, I can't even go into as much detail as Corey just did because he said it so beautifully. Having a two-tier system, literally by instituting that, is making this the same as the traditional system that we have right now. And this goes back to this whole question about Sam Bankman-Fried and then Christine Lagarde and the ECB and what's going on with, the world sort of slow pace, sluggishly moving towards coming up with proper regulation is all we really need. We don't need to be regulated into the ground, but we do need some basic regulation. This goes also back to what you said about the FTT token with FTX. Yeah, that's a great area that could be regulated. If you have a token that you're within your business, within your ecosystem, that should 100% be illegal for that to be some form of capital that you're using. What's the word I'm looking for? My brain is just not working today. Proving that you have collateral. You can't use your own token as collateral. It's got to be external sort of external value.
Anything that you can't print out of thin air.
Yes, which is just like the US dollar again, right? And so the fact that they're trying to do this regulation on something that is perfect, and mind you, all these crashes we've had this last year, yes, there was a lot of poor mismanagement that was happening, and thank God they got rooted out this year. But I still think, it's all tied back to FTX, the Celsius, the Voyager, the BlockFi, all of these huge Three Arrows Capital. This was all tied back to very poor actions and business practices by Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX. And I cannot imagine a world where all that happened without coordination from people superior to him and outside of him, like Gary Gensler, like the people even also in the European Union, his parents. There's so many things that play here that are beyond just, is crypto good, is crypto bad? Crypto is perfect as it is. It's these players that are coming into crypto that are making the ecosystem look bad. Now we need to regulate it like a traditional finance model. Well, the people that just crashed the ecosystem several times this last year are people like Sam Bankman-Fried that came from the traditional system. So that's all I got to say about that.
No, you raise a good point. I would say everything that has been collapsing lately is essentially antithetical to the Bitcoin white paper. I will throw out a couple examples. If they do win, I would say obviously DeFi is going to be outlawed. You're going to have to use a VPN for everything, and they won't have to custody the Bitcoin you own because you won't be able to own it. It'll be fractional reserve. They'll sell you 1,000 Bitcoin, but they'll only have 10. They'll only have 50, maybe 100. And then we'll wonder, why isn't the price moving? So that's my 2 cents on that. I think it was a fantastic episode. Make sure you hit that like button. Yeah, go ahead.
If you don't mind, I just want to add something. Corey said something really good when he was comparing what happened with the Tornado Cash developer versus SBF. Another thing that I've heard people make comparisons to, and it's a big comparison, is Ross Ulbricht. What happened to Ross Ulbricht having 2 life sentences for creating a website versus SBF sitting in Bahamas just chilling, sleeping on his beanbag, playing video games.
With dirty authorities, doing
check out freeross.org.
Yeah.
Sign the petition over there.
I do want to say, could I say one thing too after? So I want to say that in regards to traditional finance, in regards to the cryptocurrency finance, in regards to creating a separation of the wealth gap between the vanishing middle class and the upper class, in regards to what you said regarding tiers, we can also look at this from an inflation perspective. Look at how inflation has destroyed multiple different economies throughout the world. You look at Venezuela, which was the second biggest economy in South America just 2 generations ago, and now it has collapsed under a economic regime where there's extreme inflation. There's inflation in the UK, which is the highest it's ever been. Not the highest it's been in 40 years. And you look at America, which its average inflation rate right now is about 7.7%. So these are just ways that the economic elite really create a division between the retail investor, the middle class, and the autocracy.
Yeah, inflation is nothing but a tax on the poor. Lifer, last word, and then
can I just piggyback? One last word is they print so much money. I figured out the other day, and I was listening to someone say it actually destroys humanity. They give 2 governments money, right? And if those money had to get the money from gold, right, they dig into the gold, and they could only fight a war for so long, but they give them the huge debts, billions of dollars, and they're able to put more soldiers out, and those soldiers chew each other alive on the war field. It's
Yeah.
killing humanity. Fiat
I've
currency
said it a
is
million
actually
times.
killing
Eisenhower
life. It's
was
insane.
right. Eisenhower was right.
It's
all right, that is
insane.
all we have time for. Make sure you are sub to all these channels. Make sure
This
you
was a
follow
good
us
episode.
to the new channel.
awesome.
ATB is moving on January 2nd. Make sure you're subscribed to that. My handler, I'm going to start darting over the camera like SBF. My handler is now nodding. I got the approval.
Yep.
All right, that is all we have time for. And Corey, great job. You won it. If you win the episode, you get about 10, 30 seconds. Leave us with some parting thoughts. Corey, take it away.
So I want to say thank you so much for all of the individuals who have supported me. I want to say thank you so much to the Hex community that has helped me, that has propped me up and has given me a voice. The Hex community, I wouldn't have been able to done it. I wouldn't have been able to do it without you. Thank you so much for the opportunity for you guys to trust me. I want to also thank Syscoin for their opportunity in believing in me and working alongside them as well. I know Big Boy just met them, the team of Syscoin. So I want to thank both of these individuals. I want to thank both these communities. I want to thank Hex community for helping me grow. And I want to say to those, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Corey Casta's Crypto Coins. I know, say that twice backwards. I say that twice again. And Twitter, Corey Casta 123. So I want to say thank you so much again, the Hex community, for all they've done.
Make sure you give him a follow. He doesn't just talk about RH coins, y'all. He knows what he's doing. All right, that is all we got time for, folks. Nothing wrong with those though. Until next time, easy out.
Yeah.